You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I am your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Make sure to check out batmanonfilm.com to find out more about all of the other Bat-related shows on the network. The Batman Book Club is also on Patreon. If you like what's going on with this show, want to help support the show and keep the generators running in the Wayne Manor study, just go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc. You can also help the show immensely by rating and reviewing wherever you're listening. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever. Just go to the rate and review page and help this show by rating and reviewing it. So thank you for listening to episode 240, Tom King Returns. One of the biggest names in comics was kind enough to pencil me into his insanely busy schedule to talk Batman Elmer Fudd, Killing Time, Batman Catwoman, Joker, and so much more. And when you're finished listening to this episode, make sure you go back and check out mine and Tom's first conversation in episode 138, where we dove deep into his Batman run. Now let's not delay any longer. Enjoy my conversation with Tom King. And welcoming back on this here show it's my honor to and privilege to speak to this man again for the third time. And I'll tell you why it's the third time here. It's Tom King. Tom, thanks for coming back on the Batman Book Club. Appreciate it.
What an absolute pleasure to be back. I can't thank you enough for having me, for talking about comics, for talking about Batman, a character. I mean, obviously very near and dear to my heart, who I've lived with for many years. So yeah, it's my privilege to be here. Thank you, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I said right before we hit record that there isn't anything that you're not involved in these days. I mean, you were speaking to me in January 2023, episode 138, over 100 episodes ago of this little podcast. And since then, I think you've gotten your hand involved in movies, television, animation, even more comics than you were then. So for you to fit me in a little bit of that schedule, it's appreciated. And I say this is the third time because you were on this show, and then I actually saw you a couple months ago at C2E2.
It was wonderful seeing you. Yeah, with Mitch. Yes. Yeah, it was great.
It was you maybe the most packed section of Artists Alley. That was so crammed. I think you and Mitch were across from Ryan Otley.
Yes, we were
next to Benjamin Percy. You were next to then Jason Aaron, next to Joel Jones. It was madness, and I'm glad I got you guys as soon as you got there, because I don't know if I'd have made it any other time of the day. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was fun. Mitch and I hadn't done that con since we did the last pre-COVID con. That people called it the last con of all ever at the time. So yeah, we were doing 5-6 hour signings a day, and then taking an hour break, and then doing another 4. Yeah, so we were just, my hand was cramped by the end, but it was whatever. But of course, you're across from. I mean, these are the best guys in comics. Ryan Otley is the nicest guy, and he's exploding because his art is beautiful, and now it's the basis of an incredible TV show. And next to Jason Aaron, who is one of, if not the best writers in comics, so me and Jason could just hang. It was ideal. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great, and I did eventually, because that was on my list of like, man, this is the alley. Get you two. I need to get Jason Aaron because he's writing Ninja Turtles right now, and as you can see over here, I've got Turtles. I bleed green. Outside of Batman, I love the Turtles. And Joelle Jones, I've talked to you about your arc on your Batman run with her of the Rules of Engagement. It's my favorite arc, and I love her art. So I'm like, man, I got to get these people, and it just got so crammed, but I got it all done. I got everybody's signatures, so it was a good trip. I hope the comment good for you too.
Oh yeah, it was great. I love that town. My wife's from Chicago, so it's a little bit of returning home. Yeah.
Excellent. I think one thing that I'm bummed that I didn't do is when I got into that enviable position of, I got up to talk to you and Mitch, and I busted out the Batman Elmer Fudd Deluxe Edition, and you hadn't seen it yet. I did not have my phone ready to record or anything, and you basically did like a live commentary of your process of this, as you were just going page by page, and Mitch is just looking over your shoulders. You're like, oh yeah, because Lee did this, and then I didn't write that. And I'm like, damn it, why am I not recording this? Like I wasn't prepared for this, so I think I was sitting there stuttering like an idiot. Like, what do I do? He's just looking at it. Let him look. I don't know.
I'm absolutely terrible. People hand me books and I start reading them. I spend too much time on each person and it slows down the line. My con agents are always yelling at me. Yeah, that's very, especially if I've never seen a book before. Oh yeah, and I'll be like, let me give you the story, son, about this was
Yeah.
made many a year ago. I'm
Many
definitely
years ago.
in that phase of my career, like reminiscing.
Well, this is the basis of when I'd talked to you, I'd reached out to you in some regard, and then I saw you at C2E2, and it was about like since this just came out, this deluxe edition of the beloved Batman Elmer Fudd
It's so
instant
beautiful.
classic story. And yeah, I think DC needs to, one, in my opinion, create more stories like this, and then two, release editions like this.
Yeah.
Uh, because it's such an easy read in the sense of you can sit down and and just go at your own pace or just fly through it because it's good. But then it's got I'm a sucker for extras always.
Of
Has an
course.
introduction by
Same.
you. Lee has his artwork, and then he also breaks down some great like his thoughts on just that opening page, and this was my attempt, this is why it didn't work, this was attempt number two, and I just eat that stuff up all the time, and I'm like, this is just something, and anybody can just grab it off the shelf and and buy it. You don't need to do any kind of homework, and I think that's like, man, we need more of these.
I do feel like there's a little homework with Elmer Fudd in the homework that you have to get over your bias that when you see Batman Elmer Fudd, you don't think it's the stupidest thing in the world. Like that, like you have to at least have Googled it to be like, yeah, this is
Okay.
not what you think it is. Because
Yeah.
anyone who immediately sees that is like, this is gonna be dumb and stupid. When I was right, as I put in the introduction, when I was writing it, I was like, this is gonna be dumb and stupid. It was just as much a shock to me that people that it came out the way it did, having been, rising
Well,
to the status that it did. If you can
I do.
overcome that, then you can read a comic that I am super proud of.
Well, I did expect, I don't remember exactly how it had come out of DC Looney Tunes crossovers are coming. And the backup slash second story that you did, that is what I expected all of
Yes,
these to be.
as did I. Yes, same.
Admittedly, that's what I thought. So then I did see what your story was, and I was like, whoa, 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 this is a different animal. I didn't get my hands on that first issue when it was released. And so then also because I'm a sucker, I didn't know that this deluxe edition was coming. So they just this year reprinted them. I don't know if you'd seen these. They did a
I
noir
did.
edition,
Yeah, they're really pretty.
and these are awesome. And of course, because I'm a sucker, I'm like, I can't decide on a colored version or noir. Some stories just look great in noir, but I always love the colored versions. So I bought both. And then I saw the deluxe edition was coming. I'm like, well, damn it. Okay, I guess I need to, and here we are. So,
Well, then let me
uh,
say thank you in person for doing all
oh,
that. It's very much appreciated.
oh no, not a problem. Why do you think you can go ahead and toot your own horn if you want, but why do you think, because you're aware of it, that people absolutely love this story?
I mean, this is the easiest horn to toot. It's Lee Weeks. It's not me. It's I will throw myself right under the of the bus. Lee Weeks was given the assignment to draw an Elmer Fudd Batman book and decided to draw it like year one. Like he
Yeah.
was, it was. I work with a lot of artists. I work with the best artists in comics, and it sticks out as a moment where I got the art back and I called him. I texted him. I was like, Lee, this is a Batman Elmer Fudd crossover. You don't have to
Hmm.
draw this
Be
good is
this
the wrong
good.
thing. But I was like, this is this level of deep,
Yeah.
but he's like, no, I'm gonna show people why when Frank Miller left Daredevil, I was the next guy hired. Like
Wow.
he was, and I mean, I think Lee would tell you this that he'd been underrated over the years. Like
Hmm.
people had sort of not forgotten his name, but they'd forgotten that he had this gear in him, and he was like, "I'm going to show people that I am the best of the best." And it was like I have this Ferrari, I'm gonna put it on the road and outrace. And so I think the number one reason it took off was just because Lee Weeks killed it.
Okay.
And Slaughter. And the writing is good. I'm super proud of it, but without Lee, it wouldn't be what it is.
They complement each other because sure, I think especially in the comic medium, art can help save a story, but it doesn't totally cover the ass of a bad story. So you can give yourself a little bit of credit that there's a lot of like cleverness involved in this story, and that it is just soaking in noir. It's not a story I would have ever imagined when Looney Tunes and DC is cross. Elmer Fudd and Batman are going to be in the same story. I would have never imagined this. What do you? Where did the basis? So you say in the intro, and I don't want to like give up all the goods of what's in the book, so I'm just going to highly push that people buy the book because it's very affordable as well. The cover price is $20. You get
20
Noir
bucks. That's
Edition,
nice.
Color Edition, the backup stories, both versions, these extras. Like, oh my gosh, the book of the year, buy it. But the intro, you kind of say that it was pretty quick on your end as far as making a joke and Dan DiDio being like, "Do it," and then you just got to it.
Yes, that's that that's exactly what happened. I was we were in a bar at I think San Diego, might have been New York. I was next to James Tynan when we were both baby writers, and Dan DiDio was like the Looney Tunes and DC are coming, and just like you, I thought it would be like if you look at the backup, like a joke, like the Scooby-Doo episodes where Batman goes into
Yeah,
Scooby-Doo verse and is
yeah.
running around through the doors, and that's what I had in my head. And I was like, that sounds fun. Dad's like, no, no, that's you're wrong. That's not how we're doing it. He's like, we're not going into their world. They're coming into ours. And I turned to James and I cocked the shotgun and said, shh, quiet. I'm hunting bats. And it was a dumb joke because there's no R's in that. It doesn't even make sense. James did not laugh at it, to his credit. And he's like, that's really stupid. And it was. And then Dan called me like the day I got back from the con and was like, so are you going to do one of these? Like, which one are you going to do? And that's the only idea I had was this stupid joke I had made to James. And I didn't want to tell him I had no other ideas. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, Elmer Fudd meets Batman. He's like, good, go. You have a week. And I honestly think
Nice
probably,
DiDio impression.
yeah, probably if you don't know Dan, he's
That's funny.
incredibly like aggressively Brooklyn. Uh, and and I probably got the assignment wrong, or not wrong, but I was very loyal to the assignment. Like I was like,
Hmm.
okay, they come into our world, so I'm gonna write Elmer Fudd as basically a Batman villain, as the way I would write that, and I'm gonna take him very seriously. And like you said, I had very little time, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this as a noir because I live in noir. That's kind of where um that's my true love. Like that's like I mean, if comic books and film noir are like my one two the things I go to when I just like have my brain relaxing every night. I'm watching a noir movie, and so it was very easy to sort of to write it and I mean obviously I wrote it somewhat seriously, but it has very stupid jokes in it. Like when Batman hits Fudd, it says "pow." When Fudd hits Batman, it says "pow." Like there's some wonderful stupidity in there, and and then I gave it to Lee, and Lee started drawing it, and Lee had not had this conversation with Dan, so Lee started drawing it with all the characters as animals, because Bugs
Ugh.
Bunny's in it, and
Yeah.
and this. And I had to literally send him a note being like, "No, Lee, they're supposed to be people," and he had to redraw pages. And if you look on the first page of the book, um, you'll see that's one of the pages he didn't redraw. So there's a man who's a dog walking into the bar, and
Well,
and so you see that sort of vestige left over from Lee's first attempt.
my mind instantly went to Scruff McGruff.
Yes,
That's who I think it looks like. And
that's who I think it is. Yeah.
okay. And I'm like, that's not a Looney Tunes character. But I swear, like, what other dog looks like that and is wearing that hat and that coat? That's gotta be, but it's not my mind was stuck on the first page. And still now to this day, but
I
that's
should, I
maybe
should,
it's an Easter egg. Sure.
I just I grew up super my mother was a Warner Brothers executive in the 90s. And if anyone does remember Warner Brothers in the 90s, the Warner stores and all that sort of phenomenon. It was a very Looney Tunes focused thing. Like they were trying to make Looney Tunes the symbol of the whole company.
Hmm.
And that meant that my whole house was just full of Looney Tunes art and crap and I just grew up on those characters. I wore when Looney Tunes t-shirts were the cool thing, I wore Looney Tunes t-shirts every day. So I knew those characters inside and out from growing up.
As a kid in the 90s, I had a lot of gear that was I don't know if you remember the duo Crisscross.
Yeah, of course, crisscross. Yeah, they'll make you
Taz
jump.
Yeah, exactly. Taz and Bugs with the tucked
Backwards
in jerseys.
jeans.
Yes, backwards jeans, backwards hats. I had so much gear that was that, and that was my Looney Tunes love in the '90s growing up. Uh, it's funny that you say that it all happened that fast. A bonus included in this deluxe edition is the script.
Yeah.
And is that your first script, initial script
For this project or
for
for
this
like
one?
the yeah, I don't think we even did any. I was being edited at the time by Joey Cavalieri, who's a very famous, or I mean, at least in comics, a very famous editor. This was his last book he edited before he retired. Joey
Hmm.
Cavalieri is the co-creator of the Huntress, for people who don't know, or the modern
Nice.
day Huntress. Um, and I don't think he gave one note. I think I just wrote it once and it got past the league. Yeah, there was
All
no.
right. So time to go back to modest Tom King here and, pat yourself on the back and give some credit because the script, I read it here and reread the issue and there's barely any changes. What's in the script is the final product. And then the final product speaks for itself that people love the story. So it's almost like under the gun like this, no pun intended. Uh like you nailed it. It like that's just like wow. And I'm not trying to, totally suck up or nothing. It's just sometimes you like reading the scripts that are provided because it's like, oh, what, the whole process of, adapting something and creating something, there's changes. It's interesting. What are those changes? And it's like none, a couple of lines, and that's it.
I mean
Wow.
my great irony for this book, which has become a signature book for me, is when I got the comps for comps are like when they send you in the mail and you get them like a week before the issue comes out. I opened up the book. I was super excited because the art was good and I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
And I opened up and I see a typo, and then I turned to another page and I saw another typo, and I was like, fuck it, fuck this book,
Damn.
it's a failure. And I can remember very much being in the kitchen in the house I'm currently in. I took my comps and I threw them in the trash. And I was like,
Wow.
I worked hard on it, but I fucked it up because I can't believe it got fucked up with these two typos.
Did you pull
And
them
no,
back out?
nobody's gonna like it. If you it took a while. So for this edition, I think is the first time they're out. They might be in the, I don't know those two issues if they have the typos or not. I
I
would be
mean, I'm
interested.
sitting here talking about like, hey, revisit your pain. Do you remember which parts they were?
If you go, there's a page where Elmer Fudd realizes that it's Silver St. Cloud, that Bruce Wayne is the bad guy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a three-panel page,
Mm-hmm.
and in the and Cloud is the middle panel. It's the first time
Yeah.
you see Cloud. Yes, it's that page. So yeah, so if you look at that, that's the typo. It says Bruce Wayne,
Okay.
and it should say Bruce Wayne. That R should be
That's
a
true.
W. So
Yeah.
if you look in yeah, so that
Let's
threw
go
me
to
off.
this one. All right, let's go to the deluxe.
Let's go to the
This is
deluxe.
this is what we
We can see that I reached out to the
That's
editions. I
right.
was like, they
You move
keep reprinting
mountains,
it.
Tom. You
There's the
move
W.
mountains.
Oh
It's
man,
correct.
I was
Redeemed.
yeah. And there's one more on the page right before that. I think yeah.
Okay.
That makes me upset.
So I have a collector's item. I've
Yes,
got a
you do.
typo. Woo!
There's a typo. Yeah, that's been fixed. And that was all I cared
Fantastic.
about. I was like, fuck this book. And then it became a phenomenon. It sold out a bunch. It got reprinted,
Yeah.
sold out a bunch. And it just goes to show sometimes you have no idea. You just have no idea what's gonna hit,
If
what's not
if
gonna hit.
everybody knew, then everything would be a hit, and therefore
Yeah.
that'd be the status quo, and then nothing would be a hit. So I don't know. Life's a mystery. Uh, Silver St. Cloud.
Yes.
As you've said in your intro. Here I am saying I'm not going to say what else in the intro, and I'm kind of knocking out every bullet point. But you said it's just like a dream for Elmer Fudd to say, and I
Yes.
do love reading throughout it, like my widow Cloud. Like
Yes.
there's just something that's kind of precious about it.
She was picked entirely for the letters in her name. You couldn't pick Vicky Vale. Vicky
Yeah.
Vale kind of said Silver St. Cloud's perfect. I'm a huge fan of the Englehart Rogers run of Obvious. I would rank that at like on their top five Batman stories of all time for me.
Dream
Uh,
come true, if I may interject. Strange Apparitions is one of my favorite Batman stories ever, and by another Deal with the Devil, I'm doomed, I think, by the end of this year. Last month, Steve Englehart was on here, and I got to talk to Steve Englehart.
oh,
What
amazing!
a
Wow,
dream!
I've never met him. I in
Dream,
my
really.
many years, so you're one ahead of me. So I'm super jealous. I would
Uh,
fanboy out to the roof.
he yeah, he was in here. He was just firing off answers. I'm like, Steve, I'm really sorry that I'm asking about, like, put yourself back in 1976 and what were you thinking? And he's just like boom, 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 boom.
Didn't he
And
write those
then
issues like on a plane while he was leaving town or something weird? Like,
he was, yeah, he had a deadline because he was going to England and DC wanted him to do Justice League and he said, I want to do Batman. And so he just wrote everything, was gone, and then came back. And at that point, Marshall Rogers, Terry Austin did all the art. And so he was totally absent from everything. And it's like, who to thunk? Some of the most impressionable comics in Batman lore. He's just like, I just want to do this, and he did it. And I only got to ask him pretty much about that. And then he said that he'll come back on and talk to me later this year to talk about the sequel, Dark Detective. So yeah, Englehart, Silver St. Cloud. Anyways, carry on.
Silver
Sorry,
St.
just had to
Cloud.
throw that
Ah,
in there.
no, sorry.
I think she's underutilized. I'm waiting for her to pop up in a movie or something, and I'm like, maybe Matt Reeves will bring her in somehow. I don't know. Silver St. Cloud. She's a good character.
And she's a ripoff of a romance character. It
I
took
didn't
me a
know that.
while. Yeah, there's a romance character named Saint Clair who was like a backup in the romance
Hmm.
books, which came out probably like 3 years before this. And it's like gold sync. It's like it's obviously a very and she has the white hair and she
Uh-huh.
looks exactly the same. So it was he took a character and she's also like an upper class fancy person. And so
Huh.
he took that and put her in a Batman book. It was
I
like, what
had
if
no
our
idea.
Batman character had it? Yeah. I knew because I wrote this book called Love Everlasting where I had to read a bunch of romance comics. And I was like, oh my God, this is where Silver St. Cloud comes from.
And
Lisa St. Clair is her name. Lisa St. Clair.
gotcha. Love Everlasting.
Who
I
I
have
I
the.
put Lisa St. Clair in Penguin. So there it goes.
Oh,
The world
okay.
is a
Look at
circle.
that. Amazing. Um, she. So, what was your? I don't know. I wasn't going to say like your hook, but for you to write so fast, what was the root of this? Or was it just grabbing because you were under the gun and you knew Batman, Elmer, Noir, and then just Silver just like clicked of like, oh, let's make it about her? Because a lot of times, femme fatales and noir ladies and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was using classic sort of femme fatale things. I remember the night before I stayed up and watched I was like the day before I started scripting, I couldn't sleep or something, or I woke up super early in the morning and I watched Out of the Past, which is like the world's greatest noir, and has this kind of very pattery dialogue.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to use that kind of pattery dialogue where every line is an insult, and you do these, and every line kind of underlines the line before. It's one of the best dialogue movies of all time. I kind of stole that pattern from there. And yeah, I mean the plot is nothing. I mean you only have one issue, so how intricate could the plot be? But the plot is, he's an assassin. He comes, he gets fooled, and of course Bugs Bunny's playing a trick on him. But as in every noir, it's actually the femme fatale who's pulling all the strings, and the men get fucked up. Like I was using all the cliches and just pushing them into this bizarre Batman Elmer Flood vortex of it. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it was very easy to write. It came super easy. The hardest thing was figuring out where all the R's turned into W's. And
That's what I was gonna say. Your first writing, were you writing it as Elmer, or did you write it normal and then go back and change?
No, I wrote it. I wrote it as Elmer.
Okay.
I'm. If you go through, I missed a few. I always like, oh, I should have missed. Oh, I forgot that R turned into that. And then you'd be like, okay, well, does an L in the middle next? It was like I
Yeah.
remember like all these things of what would it. And I'm a super nerd who I say my scripts out loud while I write them. It's low in my voice, but that's how I do it.
Hmm.
I was a very bad actor in high school and college. So I act out the scripts a little bit. So I was reading it as Elmer Fudd. So
Hmm.
the script is working like that. And so I would say the words and then I would write what I just
Don't we
said.
all do that if Elmer's involved somehow? Like if we
Yes,
mock him,
yes.
we all do it. We're all guilty.
And I've written like this book. It it's it works as a noir, but it also works as humor. It makes me laugh, and I've written humor when you're laughing writing, when you're having fun writing, then
Yeah.
it turns good. Your energy of having fun goes out into. I mean, I'm writing this book Trinity, which is kind of a comedy book, or at least has a lot of gags in it, and. I'll be writing a page and I'll be like, I don't know if this is working. I only know when it's working. I was like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Now I'm laughing because that was ridiculous. And I was writing a page today where a corgi is on a building, and I was like, what if we did the sequence from the Batman animated introduction with the lightning in the background and it reveals the corgi. I was like, that is so dumb. I was like, and I started laughing. I was like, this is gonna be fun.
Done.
It's like yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I did Elmer Fudd, where I was like, what if the sound effects had W's in them? That makes me laugh. What if and then what if I gave him like a very dark noir origin? Like what would Elmer Fudd's origin be? And using this kind of, in the spring we would hunt and in the winter and all this like I couldn't yeah. I
But
couldn't love it more. It was mixing perfect genres for me. I loved it.
not to
I
sound
wish I
too
could write that stuff every week. So much fun.
not to sound like too cornball or anything, but I do believe that if there's a lack of energy or love behind a project, even something like that, something like this, written words on pages, I think you can feel it through the creators. If Lee didn't put as much effort into the art, it'd still be good. If you were just like, it's just an assignment, I just need to hurry up and get it done. I think there's something strange if you can get the energy and feel, oh man, they had a good time with this. I think they had a really
Yeah.
good time with this. And it sounds really
That,
cheesy, but like in maybe I'm projecting, but I just do feel that sometimes with some books it comes through.
and it's funny in this script that made me laugh and still cracks me up. It's still the best. I mean, I've written what like 400 comics or something, and so
That's it.
each has like yeah, that's it, and each has like three action scenes. So we're talking. I've written over 1,000 action scenes probably, and
Jesus.
the best one I've ever written is like the 2 pages where Batman and Fudd fight, and
Oh, oh my
it
God.
just it's ridiculous how like exact it is, and it feels. What I'm always trying to capture in an action scene is that year one action scene on the
Mm.
fire escape, I think is the best action scene in comics.
Wow.
Where you just uh you feel that more visceral. Like it's chaotic and it's weird and Batman's making mistakes and also being cool and that's what Lee got across. It's one of the rare times that able to
Man,
capture that feeling that I'm always aiming for, which is obviously just a I'm always trying to capture the highs that Frank Miller captured, and it's
that's
just kind
right.
of a
You
constant in my career.
you did say last time you were on here that Dark Knight Returns was your favorite Batman story. So of course you channel your, one of the greats. It's funny that you come to that part of the story because there are two things I want to point out. One is just geeking out in what a freaking Batman shot that Lee drew of Batman behind Elmer.
Yeah,
My
brilliant.
goodness. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
best page of the whole book. I
And
don't know.
I wouldn't do that if looking at it now. I had more balls than I do now. I mean, I don't know a better way to put that, but like to do it as a silent page, to do the next few pages as a silent page. Nowadays, I'm like, I got to put a caption on there. I got to do something to slow down the reader.
Uh,
But they didn't need it. Didn't need it at all.
no.
I'm proud of young Tom and his courage to leave the words off. That action scene is the best one I ever wrote.
And then to combine how you just brought up year one, so you might know where I'm going to go with this. So this image where it's Batman and Elmer shooting at Batman,
Yeah.
and maybe I don't know how you script that part, but I'm going to pull out my absolute year one because the moment I first read that, I'm like, how's that not a nod to uh,
Yeah.
cover 407?
Yeah. How could it not
Like,
be?
can you see that?
Yeah, I can
Or am
totally
I
see it
making stuff
for
up?
sure.
Okay.
No, for
I don't
sure.
know how you scripted that, if there was
Fr fr
ever any discussion or
Frank and Lee go back to the very beginning. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, but I have a picture of me and well, this is an alternative take of me and Frank, and that's Walt and Louise Simonson. Um,
wow.
and then Lee joined us for that dinner. We all ate together. Yeah, I mean Frank and Lee go back 30 years. So uh,
How many times have you pinched yourself since doing comics? My goodness.
I,
Like,
I
wow.
I've pinched myself many times. Yes. I still pinch myself every day that insane things seem to happen to me. You know, I used to tell myself I was like my 12-year-old self, how much do I owe this kid? Like I feel like I'm giving so much to this kid because I'm making all his dreams come true because all he wanted to do is write comics and meet Frank Miller and write movies and all this stuff. And then I think the opposite is more true, where it's like how much that kid is doing for me, like my whole career and my whole life and how I feed my family is built on that kid's passion for
Yeah.
comics. and that kid's ability to survive. Because I had a tough childhood, just in terms of, the typical sort of nerd childhood where I was ostracized and made fun of and bullied and all that crap. And and that kid surviving that and turning all of that whatever mush into an imagination and into an ambition. I think I still owe him much more. Much more. He's given me much more than I've given him. That little 12-year-old kid.
It's paying off.
It's paying
Like
off. Yeah.
it's definitely paying off. Um, do you remember what the first image was that you saw of Lee's?
Me personally, like what do I remember?
I'm sorry for this
Like
book.
in my life in the book? No, I don't know. I
The
could look
first one
it
that you
up.
saw of like, hey, Lee's got the first couple pages for Batman Elmer Fudd. Here's what he's cooking.
I know. I remember him drawing animals. I think it was the original, like the first bar scene, and he was drawing
Gotcha.
animals. As far as that's what my memory comes up with. But it could be flawed, yeah.
Okay.
But I think they were layouts. They weren't. I didn't. I don't think I had him throw out any full drawings. Yeah, that's that. And then when the full drawings came in, that's when I reached out to him and said he was drawing it too well. That's 100% true story.
We're gonna need you to go ahead and redo this one. How fun was that scene to script?
Oh, every scene was fun to
Okay,
script.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy question.
Yeah. It was a little there was a little bit of a challenge there where you're just I'm not a joke writer. I'm not a humor. I mean, some guys are, I run into guys who wrote on Seinfeld or wrote on Curb Your Enthusiasm or something, and those guys, or still write for late night talk shows, and those guys they do it. The guys who do Seth Meyers, they go in every day and they're like, here's 100 jokes, pick the three best ones,
Crazy.
and then the next day comes and they're like, here's another 100 jokes. So they think of the whole world in terms, and I think it's such a skill, and I wish I had it, but I don't. So in those, I was like, okay, I have, I'm going to do 1 or 2 panels per person to make a joke about, Marvin the Martian
Hmm.
and all these guys, and I was like, what? And so it was more challenged to just sitting there and be like, okay, what's a good joke for Tweety? Like, what's how do I do the essence of Tweety in one thing? Like, it's like, okay, he's got. Oh, I think I saw put in tat. Oh, so I was like, what is? Oh, whoa, that has a lot of meanings. I think it's like. Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna use the other meanings and make it a joke. So yeah, it was me trying to imitate some of my hero humor, my
Definitely
heroes.
the dialogue helps sell all that across. I do appreciate that for Taz, you're like, let's write Taz on the shirt. Let's
Yeah,
just really help people in case they don't understand that the Ago Ago Aga is Taz. Just look at
I
his
think I
shirt.
think those Lee probably added the Taz. I mean, you see my scripts, they're always very bare in terms of descriptions. It's just what needs to be done and nothing more than that. And so, I mean, I don't. What you're seeing is a lot of Lee in terms of how they dressed and how small they were and how big they were and all that stuff. Yeah.
So okay, so you say that with scripts. Is this just whenever you take on a project, artists just know, okay, I'm gonna get scripts the way that Tom does scripts, or do you form your scripts about what the artist per artist?
I mean, I'll work a little more open if I know I'm
Okay.
working with an artist who likes. No, actually, that's not true. I don't like doing it. I mean, there are artists who like Marvel style, like a Greg Capullo, or I worked with John Romita Jr. for a few issues. He loves Marvel style. I can't work that way. I don't adjust my scripts or the way I script. What I do adjust is I adjust what I'm asking them to draw.
Hmm.
Um, I have a magic power. Some people have different magic powers. I'm bad at so many things. I can't put basketballs in hoops. I can't run fast. I was in the CIA, but I was a terrible shot. I passed the minimum test, but I was terrible at shooting guns. Um, but because I've done so many hours with comics since I was whatever 6 years old and started writing this, and I've done my 10,000 hours. I can see I have a power. I can when I'm writing a script, I can see what the artist I'm working with is going to draw.
Hmm.
I know how they're going to lay out the page. I know I know what it's going to be. It's like that scene in The Matrix where he just sees the code, but like the actual guy is like seeing what the code means. I can look at my scripts and see the comic book. Um,
Cool.
and so I adjust because I know, okay, Lee can do this better than anybody else, so I'm going to let him do this better than anybody else. Or I know that Mitch does this better than anybody else, so I'm going to have them do this. Or I know, and then like some people do actions, so I adjust what the scripts are, not how the scripts are to the artist, if that makes any sense. My
Yeah.
scripts are always full scripts. They have it's funny, like I mean, obviously scripts go from everything from Stan Lee would be on the one side where he would, call up Jack and be like, space, and be like, got it, 3 issues. And then the other side, of course, is Alan Moore, who it'd be like panel 6. Here's the foreground, here's the background, here's every single
Yeah.
object that's on the table. Here's a scar that's on the guy's face. His hair is parted that way. One of his eyes is looking this way. Like, and it's every single detail plus a bunch of like emotional stuff. I'm like right in between those two things. I'm actually less Marvel style than I think 99% of writers. Um, because I don't do things that are common in scripts, which are notes to the penciler, where a lot of people write, be like, dude, like Mitch and I know each other. I'm the godfather to his kid. I could write Mitch a note and be like, dude, you know what this is, man. We talked about this last Friday. Just fucking go with it. That could be a script and it would make
Yeah.
sense to Mitch. But I will always write, here's what I want in each panel, and here's the dialogue in each panel. And so what my artist is getting is a script, yes, but they're also getting a very easy way for them to read the entire story. Some scripts you read by some writers, it's hard to picture the story in your head because there's so many sort of maybe it's this, maybe it's that, or maybe you could do this, or here's an idea, and here's like 16 references. I don't do that. I tell the story, and once I feel the story's in the artist's head, it's going to come out great.
Great. I know. I think every person's process is different, but
For
it's one thing
sure.
that I always love to. I was able to ask Scott Snyder that once too because it is just such a thing to me of I don't know. I'm just like curious. Are you just like nope, this is how I do it, or is it form fitting to whoever your partner is on that project?
Yeah, I've read a lot of Scott's scripts. We don't script. He's much more in the category of. I mean, his scripts are probably longer than mine because he'll write much more
Mhm.
words. But he's much more in the category of maybe we can do this, and I'm thinking about this, or we could do this, or and it's much more on that sort of. There's no problem with it. It's all individual. It's all your
Yeah,
relationship with art. A
sure.
script in comics is not like a script in the film. A script in comics is literally a letter you're writing to your penciler.
Mhm.
It's not a script. It's an object that you're giving to your penciler to help make the comic. And there's 1,000 different ways to write a letter, and this is the way I do it, and of course Scott has a little different way.
So when in the process of creating the book do you come across the title? And how do you come up with the title of like, oh, I want this called Play for Me?
Um, I like a lot of authors um uh love titles that can have multiple meanings.
Yes.
And so play for me, right? That can be you get a lot of meanings there because it can be pray for me, like a prayer, which is a good one. I love religious stuff in my books to allude to it, but also can be prey, like it's a good pun for pray for me, like he's a hunter seeking out prey. And then of course, because it's the W, it could also be the L, so it could be play for me, like he's having a playtime. Like so, you just get a lot of meanings with that play
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
Um, that's I'm sure I haven't thought about that title in a long time because most people just call it Batman Elmer Fudd. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope that was one that you said out loud when writing it and it brought you humor like it kind of just did of just hearing it and you're like, oh my gosh. But I think
Play
I
for me.
I always want it to be like the Prey for me, but then my mind can't get over like, well, no, because then it would be Pwey because the EY doesn't change, it's just the W's added. So that doesn't make sense. And then you cause a whole mental breakdown for me, and I don't know what I think now. And I thought that's something I want to ask him. So there we go.
No, no, I love it. It's a little bit like Ulysses, a little like it has multiple meanings in every sentence.
Yeah. Well, we're moving along. So I do have some rapid fire questions that we can fit in before I have to let you go. So I'll just say again of like anybody listening of, buy this. It's worth your money. The story's awesome and there's extras that are great. A
I
friend of mine.
greatly appreciate that. That's very kind.
No, yeah, absolutely. A friend of mine, Pete, he got to see you and Mitch at New York Comic Con, and he was like, "Man, if you can ever talk to Tom, Tom likes to talk about killing time."
Dude,
Tom likes
now
talking about killing
that
time.
is a title that has a much like 17 meanings. Killing time. Yes.
And I was like, well, if I'm ever able to talk to him again, that's definitely one of them that I do want to talk about. And out the gate, I want to say, like, was my mind can't get around that it wasn't an inspiration for you of this book was like the Dr. Manhattan issue in Watchmen. To me, in reading it, it felt completely like, man, he had to be influenced by that chapter in Watchmen. Were you, or not at all, in how you styled this one?
I mean, I'm interested. I mean, Watchmen influences probably everything I do. It's probably in my DNA. I mean, I started out as almost an Alan Moore clone when I came in. I used to joke that Omega Men should be called Who Omega's the Omega Men. Uh, but no, I think Alan Moore and I are drawing from the same influence, which is a movie called The Killing from 1949, 51,
Kubrick?
the Kubrick film. Yeah,
Oh, I think that might have been 58.
50. Oh, that late? Oh shit. Well, so that shows how
Yeah,
I know.
whose mask looks eerily
Um,
similar to Heath Ledger's bank heist mask.
yes, yes,
Anyways,
that's the one. And the killing starts out with the first act of the killing is told non-linearly.
hmm
And that's to be again, that's one of the meanings of the word killing time. It's a tribute to the killing. Um, and uh, it starts out with 8 a.m. A cop walks in. A cop walks into a bar, and then it goes 3 hours earlier. The cop talks to his wife. 5 hours later, a man arrives at a horse ranch.
yeah,
It skips around with that sort of high narration, and so that's what I was stealing from. So I think maybe Alan Moore and I were stealing from the
okay,
same spot rather than we were both stealing from Kubrick, the master.
all right. Oh, there you go. How do you plot out a book like this, or do you do it normally and then the style then comes where you're like, ooh, let's start Christopher Nolaning it and like moving pieces around like a puzzle.
I mean, I very much wanted this book to be. I always play with this formal stuff. I don't do it as much. No, well, maybe I was doing it today, so maybe I do it. But I always I love nonlinear storytelling. I told a ton of linear stories. Don't get me wrong. But that's one of the things I love about comics is that you don't have to tell linear stories. It's
Yeah,
one of the magic of comics is that you can tell stories that go backwards and forwards, and you can use the words that don't match the pictures and because people who come to comics come with such a high IQ of how stories work, and they come with such a high IQ of who the characters are, that you can take these risks that in a movie, are harder to take. Something like Pulp Fiction seemed so genius at the time, and it was like the smallest out of order, right?
yeah,
Like, but in comics, we had been doing stuff like that for years and years and years, and we were all used to it. And of course, we could understand something like that. And so with this book, I wanted to take that to the extreme, where it's like, I want to write a book where basically every single page is out of order, and you could read it in any order.
yeah.
And you could just take the entire book and throw it on the floor and pick it up. That's a Chris Ware concept. I don't know. Chris Ware is like a famous cartoonist, and he wrote a book like that where he's like, you could just throw. And I was like, I'm going to sort of use that Chris Ware idea, which is another meaning of killing time. I was killing the concept of a comic has to be read, in a time order.
Nice.
So that was from the very beginning. And of course, when you're doing a book that's about killing time, that immediately reminds me of a lot of people's favorite episode of the animated series, and definitely one of my favorite episodes, which is the one that's dedicated to Clock King and sort of his mastery of time and how it destroys his life. And so then I was like, okay, well, Clock King has to be my ultimate villain here. Like this is definitely and that's um and so yeah, so that became part of it, and then I wanted to elevate it a little bit, so I kind of based it on this old Greek myth, and did sort of that part of it, and yeah, so all that stuff went into it, and then so these are many factors that went into the book. I also wanted to do a book. My Batman run was a very internal Batman run. Batman's always, he's like, oh, I'm so sad my wedding got broken up. Oh, I'm so in love with you. Oh, I'm so showing my vulnerability. And I had done 85 issues of that. And I was like, I'm going to do a bet with no interiority. We're not going to go into Batman's head at all.
It was
I,
nice.
I I want this to be just him on the run, like, uh, and so I abandoned. I was like, oh, this has now become a crutch to you, Batman's interiority. Just throw it away,
Mhm.
and challenge yourself to be Like the whole thing's told from Clock King's the storyteller. You don't find that out till the end. Sorry, I just spoiled some of it.
No.
But because he doesn't know Bruce Wayne's identity, you never see any of the Bruce Wayne side of Batman. All of his calculations, he knows a lot of things, but he doesn't know who Alfred is. He doesn't know
Hmm.
what the cave is. He doesn't know any of that. So all of that stuff was wiped off the table because it's the POV of it's all told from the POV of a character who doesn't know certain things about Batman. And one thing he doesn't know is he doesn't know anything about Batman's interiority. So that was sort of off the table from the beginning.
And I can, man, I can remember it now. Um, because we do an episode at the end of each month where me and Pete, who I just mentioned, we talk about the new Batman. Like we go through each Batman comic that was released that month. And so we were
Sure.
doing that with Killing Time and talking about it. And when that issue, I think it was end of issue 5, and that the eye is rolling and you're seeing the feet, and then that last page and he's standing there holding it, and I was just like, son of a bitch, of course it's Clock King. Like, what the hell? Why would I not think that makes the most sense that that's the one narrating? Uh, and like, I don't know, that was just like, that was a fun revelation of the book. And then I just reread it now too, because I was reading it month to month, and I mean, I love the collected editions, if nothing else, because I can read all of it, at my leisure
Sure,
right
sure.
there. And it was just picking up things snapping together and everything. And I'm like, I do love like all in your books. I mean, yes, it's the same character, it's Batman, but they're totally different stories and different types of stories. So Elmer Fudd, and it's not a negative by any means, but it's like that's an easily accessible story. You can sit down, you can read it in a half hour and really
Sure.
enjoy it. Be like, God, that was so much fun. And it's like this one's complex. This one you have to read slower, you have to think about it, and it's like they both give you the same level of like joy. They're both true to the character of Batman. They're not disrespectful. You're not making fun of him or anything. And it's like, man, it's just so refreshing from a reader's perspective of like, yeah, this is the same Batman, but it's different. It's also different. It's so like, I wonder if you love doing those kind of challenges where the books and stories, some characters are the same, but it's all different too.
Yeah, 100%. That's how you have fun with these books. Um, and I could do a book that was that complicated. That was I call them COVID books now. During COVID, I was so productive because who wants to spend time with their children? But no. I just for some reason that was we all did different things to cope during COVID and to make it through that
Yeah.
insanity. One of the things I did was I got so involved in stories, and because of that, I was writing very efficiently. There were no cons to go to. There were no trips. It
Yeah.
was just like make art, and I got ahead of my deadlines, which means I could do something which I hadn't done before, which was write entire graphic novels one after another. When you're on double ship Batman, and I was writing Mr. Miracle at the time or something, I'd write, okay, this week I'm writing Batman 59, next week I'm writing Batman 32, and then the week after that I'm writing Batman because you're feeding four artists at the same time, and then in
Yeah.
between that I'm writing Mr. Miracle 2 or Mr. Miracle 5, and but with Killing Time I could write, okay, this week I'm writing Killing Time 1, and next week I'm writing, and I just wrote it straight through, and so I could have a more complicated story just just to keep it inside my head.
Yeah.
Um, and so that very much happened. But you're also seeing an art adjustment, like when you're working with Lee Weeks. Lee Weeks is a master of that, like year one style we talked about with Frank. So you're writing to that kind of thing. It's very accessible, but it's also very grounded. When you're working with David Marquez, Marquez is a master of action and
Oh, man.
movement, right? So like so the book was all movement, all action, because that's what Marquez does better than almost
Yeah.
anyone. So I wanted to again adjust it to, like I said before, like my scripts don't change, but what I give an artist is the same, and I wanted to build to Marquez's strengths, and he fucking crazy
Yeah.
nailed it.
I definitely wanted to shout that out as well. Like his art in this, so totally different from Lee Weeks, but same like A plus level of like, man, the art was freaking awesome. And there's so much great action in this too. But even, you know, uh Catwoman and Riddler are sitting in a diner with this agent, and it still looks like excellent. Like, and it's like
Yes.
they're just sitting at a diner, but it still looked great. It was a
No,
great story.
David draws the best tennis scene you'll ever see in comics. It's like man, this
Yeah.
is awesome tennis.
Yeah, it looks great.
Uh,
Did writing some of that Greek backstory, did that give you the idea that you wanted to attack Wonder Woman? Or you
uh,
already knew like, I've got a Wonder Woman story.
no, I think Wonder Woman came quite a few years later than that. Yeah, I mean, because of again my efficiency, like I think David had drawn probably half of the first issue when I turned in the entire thing. So you got to imagine by the
Yeah.
time it came out, it was probably like a year or two after I'd written it. Um, so yeah, so Wonder Woman came quite a bit later. And one of my things with Wonder Woman at the beginning was I'm breaking all of these rules. But one of the rules I said was I was like, I don't want this to be a book about Greek gods. There's so many Wonder Woman books that are about Greek gods, and it stops being grounded and she stops being cool because it
Yeah.
feels like it's just a bunch of people talking in clouds. And I was like, I don't want it to. So it was the opposite of that.
Sure.
I wanted to go. But now that I've done, I just did 2 issues of a noir story that took place on Olympus. So I'm already violating it, but at least at the
Oh,
beginning.
then I can tell you the Batman Wonder Woman two-parter. Oh, wow. Loved that. That was great.
Oh
Excellent.
man, damn! I killed the art. My
Yeah,
God, it just.
absolutely.
I
Another
put him on a
legend.
9 panel grid, and I didn't. I didn't know it would be as good as it was because that was we had done an issue before with Superman, which was silly. We did a silly issue, which was like them shopping at a mall. It was very
Mhm.
heartfelt, and it's a lot of people's favorite issue of the whole book. But he reached out to me and he's like, "Can we do something that's not silly?" Because I would have done something else that was similar of like sort of silly. And I was like, "All right, we're going. If you don't want silly, we're going super serious. I'm gonna do a detective story. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
True Detective on Mount Olympus."
Yes.
Was the pitch with Batman and
Nailed it.
Wonder Woman as the detectives. So
Awesome. We've got another one, the winning card, with your pal
yeah,
Mitch.
that's my buddy.
Holy shit, Tom. Maybe like the scariest Joker we've seen in the comics for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to do was to do something
Oh,
scary with Joker to see if we could make him frightening again.
nothing
Uh,
scarier than you having to go in a porta potty and there's a face staring at you from inside the John. Porta potty Joker would have never imagined. The idea itself is so bonkers, but then the freaking page that Mitch did is horror, like a full page of just absolute horror. Like my God, but God, Porta Potty Joker,
That was the most Mitch and I
man.
have been partners for oh my God over a decade, and we're still working right now. Obviously, we're working on this Mr. Miracle animated series together right at this very
Yeah,
moment, and that was the most controversial page between all of us.
the
Um,
Porta
I
Potty.
I I stole that from um, it was I think it was ancient Rome. I was reading about ancient such a cliche of a man's forged reading about Rome, but I was reading about Rome and it was there was like they were assassinating princes and one of the ways they assassinated with an assassin, back then obviously they didn't have flushable toilets and so they just had a deck with holes in it and one guy got in underneath the deck when the guy sat down to shit he shoved a knife up his
Oh
tuchus.
my God.
And I was like, that is the most horrible thing I could imagine. And then I was like,
Yeah,
what if that happened today? And
I have an idea.
I was like, that was, and so I wrote this, where he's hiding in the porta potty because what could be more horrible than you go in a porta potty and fucking jokers with a
Yeah.
knife underneath you?
Ugh.
And Mitch just said he's like, no, it's too gross. I don't want to draw it. He's like, he's too gross. I was like, no, it's so scary. It's so scary. He's never in the life said he didn't want to draw anything. This is the one time he's like, I don't want to draw. And I was like, no. He's like, no, you want me to draw poop? And I was like, no, don't draw the poop. Don't draw anything.
No.
Just whatever you see in your head. Then he's like, what if I just draw the water as blue? I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
So that was the most we've ever fought over anything. That wasn't like a fight, but it was like the only time he's like, I don't want to draw that.
Worth it. It was worth it. So when you
It was
talk to
worth
him,
it.
you can say, "Listen, I was talking to this nerd, and he brought up Porta
Please
Potty
tell him.
Joker.
Please
Totally
tell him.
worth it, Mitch.
Please
Totally
tell him.
worth it." Uh, I mean, how do you approach like a retelling in that regard? Because I mean, it is its own story for sure, but there's definitely a lot of elements here that are Joker's very first issue back in 1940.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I went through processes. I was like, okay, I was reading old Joe. I wanted to do something that was year one related. It hasn't been turned out this way, but the whole idea of that book from the very beginning was to match it with the Riddler story that we won the awards for. So they kind of matched each other, and that was kind of an origin, an early. So I wanted to tell an early Joker. I can't even remember why I wanted to do year one, but that was kind of the impetus of it. And so I went back and I read Joker's origin story. I was like, this is really kind of fucked up. There's a lot of fucked up stuff that happens in this. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do one of those, well, to borrow a horrible thing, but between the panels, the sort of John Byrne Spider-Man stuff he did in the late 90s that everyone hated. I was like, oh, everyone hated John Byrne doing it, but I'll do it.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. And then I found out that Ed Brubaker had already done this. Like him and Doug Mahnke had done a retelling of this origin story.
Oh, The Man Who Laughs. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I was like, fuck, I can't pitch something that Ed Brubaker, one of my favorite writers of all time. And I was like, how come? But then I thought, oh, it's kind of like it got in my head. I was like, oh, it's kind of like a cover song. It's like it's a good Beatles song, and Ed had covered it. And I was like, now I'm gonna cover it. And I was like,
Yeah.
we don't do that enough. Like almost like a mixtape of something. And then again, this, I'm stupid, so these things have started to appeal to my brain. I was like, the fact that I didn't want to do it made me want to do it more. You know, it's like now I want to see like, okay, this is Ed's take on that material. Now you're gonna get my take on that material. And some days
Yeah.
you'll get Scott's take on that material. And you just have kind of this like we're all doing cover songs, and you can kind of compare them. So then that became an obsession. I was like, I'm gonna do that. And then so yeah, so every day I would, you know, I'd open I was like, I knew it was gonna be 4 pages, and I went in, I was like, it's because I think it's a 7 or 8 page story. And I was like, okay, we'll do the break there, we'll do the break there, we'll do the break there. And it was a little harder because I was doing year one, which was pre-Robin, and that story is a Robin story. So I had to kind of take
Mhm.
Robin out of it. That was the only sort of complications, the whole thing. Because to me, there's, at least in my Batman head continuity, Batman and the Joker have fought many times before Batman meets Robin.
Yeah.
That's not true in because we forget how soon Robin comes into the Batman picture. It's like a year and a half.
Hmm.
But in my head, Batman fights for like 5 years before he gets Robin,
Yeah.
and he would meet Joker in that time. That's probably because I Batman '89 was so impinged upon me in my childhood. But
Yeah.
so we removed Robin sort of from the story, and we told it pretty accurately. Besides that,
I think so too. There's enough where yes, you can say The Man Who Laughs, but it's also like The Man Who Laughs is, picking up on the end of year one where he's, poisoning the water hole,
yeah,
essentially. And
yeah.
you don't have that. And here it was like Joker, like that was just like a joke. He wasn't really doing that. So it's just, I don't, not necessarily, there's something different, but all of it is still, you can put them together and it tells like the Joker debut, the Joker Batman beginning sort of deal. And I think that's credit to each of you doing something different, even though the idea is roughly the same. Um,
Yes.
so I'll take it. Just really quick, if nothing else, other than to just continue to compliment, Batman Catwoman, adore that
Oh,
story. A new
beautiful. Yeah.
Christmas classic,
Yeah,
I
it is.
think.
It's good to read during the holidays.
This and Lieber Mayo's Batman Noel, they are now definitely, Christmas time readings, if nothing else. Um, the way that you were able to bring in Andrea Beaumont just worked. And I'm finding consistency here of if you're messing with time and you're telling of stories, because that one too of doing a past, present, and future, jumping around too, but it worked so well with compliments from, of course, the artists throughout. So I hope that you're proud of that story because from like this fan's perspective, I really really like that story.
I love that story. I think it's again sort of underrated because of how it sort of came out. It was delayed for I think 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's very very open about this because Clay had some problems at the beginning,
Hmm.
and couldn't sort of draw it for a long time. I really love it. I'm always I'm always disappointed because there's three. I think Clay's art is so perfect. I think he's one of the
Yeah.
best artists of all time in the industry. And always when I look and Liam Sharp came in and did a fantastic job and did wonderful, but I always wish Clay had just done those three issues and had it be sort of like we did with Marquez, where it's like it always just looks a little bit like a scratch in the record to me. I mean, just to be perfectly honest with you, so I'm not
No,
constantly.
my OCD does the same thing of like it doesn't sometimes it doesn't with comics. Visual is like the biggest part of comics, obviously. Um, and you get to that, it starts to feel like, this is, but I don't know that it is the same story. There's
Yeah.
something about it's not connecting like your eyes and your brain of like, it is the same story. They're battling each other. Like, no, it's the same story. It just looks different right now. That's all. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I know. Someday. I mean, someday I'll get
it
Clay to
happens.
redraw those issues and
There you go.
or release it. Yeah.
Riddler, One Bad Day, got you and Mitch both to sign this in Chicago also.
Awesome.
Um, awesome Riddler story. Love
Thank
it.
you.
And got to find out, I just thought that he was drawing Red Foreman. from that '70s show, and Mitch was drawing Kurtwood Smith, but also out of the his role in Dead Poet Society. So that was
Yes.
my big learning moment by stopping there that day by you two.
Legally, I have no comment on any of that. It could be
It's fair.
anybody.
All right,
Yeah,
there you go.
for
Yep,
sure.
nothing. The Penguin, your 12 issue series. Oh my God, I love that. Are they
Thank you.
going to
Thank you.
release a deluxe edition hardcover like they are for Human Target?
Dude, I do not know. I think that I keep saying about underrated things. Like there's some things I write that uh, uh become very zeitgeisty, like Human Target or and I think the Penguin is so good and Rafael Del Torre's art is so perfect in it. Um and yeah, I hope so. I that needs to be if people read it all at once, they're going to realize that that's just one of the best things I ever wrote, one of the best. And just by the coincidence, it was written from the beginning. It was written because obviously the Penguin TV show was coming
Hmm.
out. Nobody knew if it would be good or bad or anything. And it turns out the Penguin show was really fucking good.
Really good.
And and it turns out that I had the same characterization as the Penguin. It's like
Yeah.
this crummy, underestimated guy who's actually on top of the game, and you don't realize it the whole time. And
Yeah.
and so it's very well matches that if you love that show, you will like this thing. It's very much of the same thing. Um, and yeah, I couldn't adore it more. I love how it ended. And again, another. All these formal tricks I'm using. I use the formal trick there where I wanted to use captions, but I didn't want to use interior captions where people sort of you're just in the mind of one person the whole time. And so it's like, what if I told this story from everyone's perspective except Oswald's? So like
Mhm.
you can get in the mind. So when you're reading the issue, you're in the mind of the waiter, you're in the mind of Catwoman, you're in the mind of his children, you're in the mind of the Force of July, but you're never inside Penguin's mind. So you're just getting all these different perspectives on him and people thinking about him, but you never get his plan because you're
An
never there.
effective villain that way, then.
Yeah, and so
Sometimes you don't need to get the
yeah.
interior dialogue of the villain.
No, so I'm basically writing the tornado and he's the eye, like
Hmm.
that's what it is. And then in the last two pages you enter his mind and he gives you an explanation of why you never did. Yeah, so that's I couldn't be more proud of that book. It was my chance to kind of write a gangster, to do a little Godfather and to do
Yeah.
something. And that book is mean. That book is nasty. He's
You're a
very
nasty writer, Tom.
no,
You're just
I
a
write.
nasty writer.
Sometimes I write nice things, but like the Penguin is not a good person. He's a bad
Yeah.
man, and that's what that book is about.
Yeah. Well, DC, I mean, DC, I can't keep buying multiple versions of every single story they put out. So, of course, the Penguin is one that I'm like, man, I'll kick myself if I buy the two trades and then they come out like, no, we're releasing a deluxe edition where all of them are in one. So I go, that's the version I want. But I keep holding out and I keep looking. I'm like, I don't think that that's happening. But I really want that to happen. But I know the moment I buy those trades, it's going to be announced that it's coming.
I'll talk to him at San Diego. I'll
You might have
hopefully.
some influence. Like there's
No.
this one guy, so you'll make at least $30 if you print one of these, okay? Um, yeah, so
We're getting Human Target first, and then we'll work
yeah.
on Penguin.
And then we'll work on Penguin. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Last question for you, and I wouldn't ask you to reveal specifics, but do you have more Batman stories in you?
Yes, I just wrote a Batman story. I'll keep writing Batman stories till they kick me off. Yeah, I got approached. I was in the offices doing I don't know whatever meeting with editors, and the editor of Batman came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I got 40 pages of Batman. You want to write it? You can have any artist you want." I was like,
Oh wow.
and I was
Can
like, and I don't think I can announce who the artist was, but I was like, I have an idea. He's maybe the best artist in comics, and they said yeah, and so I did that, and the artist said yes, and I wrote the story. I think it's one of the and I think I mean God willing, I think it's one of the best things I ever wrote. And yeah, it'll be coming out next year sometime.
is it nasty? No, I'm kidding. So is it the main, and I'm not trying to ask too many questions. It's just I'm
No, no, no,
curious
of
now if
course.
it's the main title or is it just a standalone issue that it's like Batman and then subtitle something?
I think it's a standalone issue, or
Okay.
I have no idea. He was literally like he's like you can have 40 pages to do whatever you want with Batman. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was on a whim. It was like I was walking by his desk and he said this, and I said, yeah, of
That is
course.
awesome.
And then if someone gives you 40 pages to tell a Batman story, immediately in your head, you're like, okay, I can do, it
I
makes me
got
think
too many
of,
options now.
yeah, it is. Oh my God, it was a little bit of an existential crisis
Sure.
because there were no, when you're like, okay, it has to be Batman and Elmer Fudd. Okay, well, then your story time is limited of what you can write. But when someone's like, it can be Batman, any era, anything you want, whatever you want,
Yeah.
it's like suddenly you're like, shit, it's too much. Like, give me some restraints. I'm not a guy who has trouble coming up with ideas. I've never, that's knock on wood. Um, I always can come up with good idea. I'm good at that part of the game. And I just could not think of an idea for this Batman thing. I was like, okay, because obviously with
Wow.
more stories are written about Batman than any fictional character ever. So first you have to have a good idea, and then you have to check it against your knowledge of Batman to be like, that's been done before. Like for
Yeah.
example, the Joker thing we were talking about earlier. Um, so like between those two things, I kept coming with ideas like, no, Tom, you've already done that. No, Scott had already did that. No, Grant did that. No, Steve Englehart did that. You're like, I could, and I wanted it to be as good. I mean, what I was going for was like whatever happens to the Man of Tomorrow, like a story that's just stands alone, but is like a perfect story. And I just couldn't come up with it. And finally, I was on a plane, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, Tom, think. And I was like, this reminds me of this stupid thing. I was like, oh, that's it. And I was so relieved. It was such a moment of relief of like, oh, that's okay. That can you can with that core of an idea, you could do something. You can do some like
Awesome.
whatever happened man tomorrow. So I'm
Okay.
really proud of how it turned out. And like I said, it's going to have the best art in comics when it comes out. So
Well, you usually are
not bad.
pretty good on your social media stuff too. Announce when something's announced or it's coming
Yeah,
out or whatever. So I'll
yeah.
make sure that I'm paying close attention because I wouldn't want to miss that. And I think that it seems very fun. I mean, we already talked about that Batman Elmer Fudd's just a standalone issue. And if you've got something like this and it's Batman with no restraints, I'd be curious, like, which route did he go?
Yeah,
What did he
no,
come up
it
with?
won't be what you think. It won't be any
Not
of
at
the
all.
stories. When I tell people the story, they're like, "Oh my God!" So, yeah, it's cool.
Batman, My Little Pony by Tom
It's
King.
it's super. It's hard to think of something that's simple and good and deep that hasn't been
Sure.
done before, and so I was happy that I hit it. So
I
it's
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. I obviously have been looking forward to this, and then that fast, we're already over an hour, so I need to definitely respect your time, sir. And
sure.
I thank you again for coming on here, talking to me. Is there anything else you want to say about what's coming up, what's out, anything at all? The floor is yours.
No, I mean just an explanation. For people who've been following my Batman, I used to do 4 or 5 books a month, and if you've been sort of following my career lately, I'm doing a lot of Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously we have Lanterns, we have Supergirl, Superman's coming out, and there's just Man's this Mr. Miracle cartoon. So I'm my comic book has been winnowed down. I just for you comic book fans out there, I'm still writing. I wrote comic books today. I'm writing. I'm staying on Wonder Woman for as long as I can. So even though I'm kind of being less productive, I want you to know like this is the medium I started in. This is my favorite medium. This is still what I was just reading comic books. I'm taking tomorrow off to read comic books. It's like my plan for tomorrow.
Awesome.
I finished a script a little early, and my kids will be home tomorrow because it's a holiday. So I was like, I'm just gonna sit around and read comics all day and take care of the kids.
That's a
And
great day.
yeah,
That sounds like a great day.
it's a great day. So just for the fans out there and how much I incredibly appreciate your support, I'm not leaving this industry, and I'm gonna keep going. It's just gonna be a little less.
Well, that's a great no. Which social account are you the most active on in case for some reason people aren't following it yet?
I am only active on Instagram,
Okay.
which feeds into Facebook for basically if you're in my family, they're still on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm off all social except Instagram, which is
Okay.
Tom King underscore TK. So
All right.
my name underscore and my initials.
Well, there you go. So I thank you again, Tom King, for coming on and talking to me.
My absolute pleasure, man. It was awesome. Anytime anyone wants to talk Batman, I'm in. I love him. It's been the joy of my life.